guys, welcome back to the Arthritis Podcast, official podcast of digital and creative media works, where each week we take something from pop culture and try to break it down to better understand it. My name is David.
My name is Ben.
And we're here for another week of our program, another week
Dear
of our
God,
show.
why are we here?
You can't stop us. We're contractually obligated.
God damn it.
It's like a sickness. But you know what? I was like, this month was my birthday month, so I figured what better way to sort of celebrate my continued existence than to talk about stuff that we actually enjoyed.
Hooray.
So I'm curious to see if you liked this week's particular film, because it's an interesting one. Another detective story, another. So this week we are talking about The Genius of the Nice Guys, which of course, if you're unaware, is a 2016 neo-noir comedy directed by Shane Black, written by Black and Anthony Bagarozzi. Did you know much? Okay, so...
No. Again,
really? Okay, because this was like kind of an indie hit at the time.
Never seen this
one. Do you know much of Black's work?
No.
He's done like the Lethal Weapon films. He's done some stuff with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Like he's kind of...
Right.
He's a fairly prevalent
Lethal Weapon films.
Comedic director.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he did Iron Man 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
When I explain it later on, you'll understand the kind of parallels. But
okay,
before we get to the summary, what did you think of this? Because I didn't tell you anything about this going into it.
No, you just said it's on Netflix. Go watch it.
Normally, I give Ben like a preface from like, oh, it's this, or it's like keep like.
No,
I was like,
you never give me anything.
I told you about I was thinking of Serenity. Where I was like, it's a video game film. That was about it, but then you forgot. So,
yeah, I completely forgot.
So I'm not sure it's relevant. Yeah, what did you think? Tell me about
it. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was as strong as that film we watched last week, which I've already forgotten the title to. Brick, yeah. I didn't think it was strong as that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. It was Ryan Gosling. I like Gosling.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, I had fun.
That's good.
It's probably about as much as I had.
Okay, let me ruin it then.
Okay.
I have so much to ruin this film with.
Sure.
Because I don't know.
I mean, I have complaints. I can ruin it.
I don't... Well, no, I mean in the sense that like...
ruining... Well, this is called the genius of this film. I don't think...
I quite like it, but I think that it's a film that's not about itself. We can kind of get to it. I have a lot of like philosophy to unpack.
Fails narratively.
I disagree, but maybe what we'll find out is that your disagreements are what it's trying to do. And
right.
And that,
sure.
But as usual, that doesn't make it good, but means that at least he tried to do something.
Sure.
I'd love to get your thoughts on what it's at least attempting to achieve.
Right.
And then from there
I know what.
From there we can maybe go from.
Yeah, I think I know what it's attempting to achieve. Yeah.
And shockers for those of you playing along at home, there's a sad dad in this, so I connected to it. Fuck you.
Oh,
I'm not predictable.
There is a sad dad in this.
Yeah.
He doesn't get that sad. He just gets a bit. Well, he's a bit of a he's a lofty dad.
He Freudianly cuts his wrist. We'll talk about it. Okay. Let's get to the summary and then let's get to the meat of this one. In 1977, Los Angeles, drunk, down on his luck, private eye, Holland March is hired by the aunt of recently deceased porn star Misty Mountains to find the dead actress. March ends up tracking down Amelia Kuttner, who hires the bruiser Jackson Healy to scare off March. Healy is interrogated for Amelia's whereabouts by two mysterious men, but manages to fight them off. March and Healy, now in pursuit of Amelia, end up learning that Amelia was working with Missy on an experimental film that combines pornography and investigative journalism. The two infiltrate a party, and during his drunken antics, March finds the film's director dead in the garden. Healy, meanwhile, learns that a hitman called John Boy has been ordered to kill Amelia. March and Healy meet with Amelia's mother, Chief Justice Judith Kuttner, who pays them to bring Amelia back. March and Healy head to the airport, but are too late as John Boy is already there. Though through sheer dumb luck, they find Amelia and take her back to March's house. Amelia reveals that her mother is trying to destroy the film, as it reveals a conspiracy to cover up a catalytic converter that is supposed to regulate emissions, but actually doesn't work. March and Healy are betrayed by Kuttner's assistant and head back to March's house. They engage John Boy in a gunfight. Amelia flees, only to be shot dead by John Boy during her getaway. March and Healy have no evidence to take to court, but with the help of Misty Mountain's aunt, they conclude the experimental film will be shown at the LA Auto Show. The two are intercepted by Tally, but evade her, eventually being drawn into a chase and fight with John Boy and his goons. March and Healy come out with the film in the end. Kuttner is arrested, but laments her daughter's death. March and Healy formulate their own agency, named The Nice Guys. Credits.
There's a moth flying around the set.
Is that?
It's wigging me out.
Is it are you scared of moths?
No, it's not big enough to be scared, but you didn't shut the fucking door.
We'll get some air coming in. It's winter. We'll get some fresh air coming in.
We'll get some moths in here as well.
We'll get some moths in this
dust
boy.
it all up, yeah.
I obviously skimmed over some stuff, but like I guess like plot wise, it's a fairly straightforward detective story. There's a body at the start.
Yeah.
Did you not feel that, or was it like?
Well, I felt like the mystery they were trying to sort of present, like there was no, like, I guess, you know, there's the classic elements of a whodunit, you know, who killed Misty Mountain. What's her name? Is that her name?
You
Misty
nailed it,
Mountain?
yeah.
Okay.
Misty Mountains, yeah.
This is like who killed Misty Mountain, but it's, you know, it's never, you never really give a shit. Or at least I
it's not
didn't
the
give a
central
shit.
focus of the film.
But for me, even like I felt like they were trying to go for I can't think of any sort of, no, I can because I wrote this down earlier. They were trying to go for sort of like a Hot Fuzz thing, so hear me out, where
I'm with you.
Where in Hot Fuzz you have like these characters, it's a buddy cop film for one. And they're in this sort of ordinary world that seem, and like there's like this, they sort of, there's these seeds of mystery going on where it's sort of like, oh, there's something bigger going on, but surely it can't be that because that would be ridiculous. You know, in Hot Fuzz, it's the fact that there's like a fucking sacrificial cult, and you're like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, that's dumb. And there's all this evidence like there and against, but in the Hot Fuzz, it's like, it turns out there is a suicidal cult or sacrificial cult.
Right. The same with the World's End, which is similar thing where it's like, it turns out there are aliens.
Yeah. But and I feel like they were trying to do a similar thing with this, with like the whole, they were trying to play this line of, you know, like she's, you know, all these like porn stars, all these people running this porn shoot are dying, and you know, there's like these protesters who are protesting against the air, and like she's part of this protest group, and she's like, you know, she's got the word out, and her mum is trying to kill her because. And it's like, on one hand, that's like crazy, and it's presented in the film as being like this wacko idea, because you get the other side of the story. It's just like, oh, I just want my daughter to be safe. And it's like, they're doing that thing where there's like these two conflicting ideas, and it turns out that the world is crazy and it is a whole conspiracy, but you never really get enough of either perspective to where like any of them are believable. Like, you don't really believe the Justice Department. Well, I guess you do, because that's the element of normality in this world. So like, you inherently believe them, but you don't really get enough perspective from the whole conspiracy angle to where it's like, to where it becomes believable, even when, you know, like the fake money in the box, and you know, like her like secretary who was like clearly a bad guy, and you know, you've got this John Boy character. It's like, all of this is going on, and they're clearly, even when like there's clearly like a mark in the film where the writers went, at this point the audience will know. I was still like, yeah, but like, could it? Like, it could not. Like,
interesting that you even compared it to Edgar Wright's work, in Hot Fuzz and World's End, because I think you've touched on the key theme of this film.
Well, because for me, I just felt that, and this is where I'm like, narratively, it kind of gets a bit weird, where the point where you're meant to be like, where you're meant to be thrust into the crazy world. So for like Hot Fuzz, this is like the shootout. This is like, oh shit, like everyone's in on it.
Yeah.
Like, this is wild. Like, everything that you thought was crazy
is
now real, and it's just like whacking you.
Versus like the opposite.
It's like the whiplash. Whereas this, it's like they have that, they try to have that moment with like the fake money, or like, I don't know, like when it happens, it's such a slow drip that even like at the end of the film, I was like, so there was a conspiracy? Like, I was like,
so it sounds like the film worked on you then. So let's
I don't feel like that's working.
Let me try and unpack it for you, and then we can see. Then we'll go.
So I had the reaction. Why did I have this reaction, David?
Okay, so the film, it's fucking interesting to me that you touch on Edgar Wright's work, because he has a very similar interest, which is subjecting the ordinary to the extraordinary, and subjecting the extraordinary to the ordinary.
Right.
This film in particular is chiefly concerned with presenting opposing concepts in that close proximity. So most frequently, as we just described, it subjects ordinary locations to extreme violence, and extreme violence to ordinary circumstances, to create these little nuanced reverses of cliches. So for instance, at the start of the film, March, like every fucking PI in every film ever, is gonna like bust into a bar to like steal these receipts, and instead of like breaking in, he punches through the glass and then like slashes his wrist to ribbons.
And he's like, ah!
And it's like the ordinary act of like a private eye breaking into a building is subjected to the horrific violence of like a dude bleeding out on the sidewalk. Healy fights the older guy in the party and ultimately shoots him through like the side of a hot tub. Like a hot tub is like not a typically violent situation. March keeps all of his guns and ammo in a fucking cookie jar for some reason.
Yeah.
Which is to say that like most of the violence takes place in like open, friendly environments, suburban streets, the hills of, LA, that kind of thing. Contrasted with, Shattuck's horrific murder where he's like shot in the head and left by this tree is subjected to the dumb, normal drunkenness of March falling down a hill.
Right.
During the standoff in the projector room, Tally, who is like supposed to be like the film's like femme fatale, like slips on coffee.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking dumb and it solves the problem for them.
Right.
The same thing with like John Boy's machine gun fire at the house where he knocks over a palm tree and no one gets hurt. Like it's minor cosmetic damage.
He has like a pistol and then he pulls out like an SMG and then he pulls out an AK.
Yeah,
and it's
like,
just like bullets are just popping everywhere except the people.
It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
It knocks down a fucking palm tree and it's cosmetic. And I think like much of Black's other works, like Iron Man 3 in particular, it attempts to draw out what is extraordinary about normal shit. So like, you're subjected to all this violence and the story is so obsessed with these noir elements of like, these cops, these private eyes kind of sleuthing around and stuff. But there's an interesting idea of like, the film is more concerned with the aesthetics of the normal stuff. So like the aesthetics of like March's daughter and the aesthetics of like this guy, Healy, who like can't quite put his life together. That sort of thing. Like, it's sort of, I don't know, for me, I think you're right. It never quite lands a foot in either world, but I think that's kind of the point where it wants it to be like you can have this extraordinary life as this PI with Healy, who's this kind of bruiser. But at the same time, you can have like a normal life with your daughter who goes to school and stuff, but you can't, they intersect in weird ways where,
right.
The daughter has the friend over in the evening to fuck around and like watch TV or whatever. And then, Amelia stumbles in and suddenly then they're like there during the gunfight.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in another film that would never happen. He would put his family in a car and they'd be trundled off and they get kidnapped later. But in this one, they're just in a fucking cupboard hiding. And I think that I want to kind of touch on some, not philosophy, but touch on some definitions and some things and then see what you think about them.
Sure.
So the Stanford Encyclopedia discusses everyday aesthetics as this. I'm just going to quote and just read off a quote from Letty Thomas from 1995. And it says, and I quote, "The aesthetic appreciation of everyday life requires defamiliarization, making strange or casting an aura. Because we are most of the time preoccupied by the task at hand in our daily life, pragmatic considerations mask the aesthetic potential of commonplace objects and ordinary activities. Once we experience them with a different attitude and perceptual gear, we can unearth latent aesthetic value in the most ordinary routine." End quote. Which, to make it not brainy and dumb...
What the fuck does that mean?
That's to say that this film is chiefly concerned with taking everyday ideas, a drunken failing father, a house that you never built, a swimming pool that's empty, a guy who wanted to be something he's never been, taking those ideas that we all experience every day and subjecting them to the violence of this thriller noir story reveals to us, the reader and the audience, what is important about everyday life. So it has this message about, we can't, because we see shit every day, like it's like, you walk past that mess every day on your coffee table and you don't think about it.
Right.
But the minute that, someone takes the coffee table and the mess, they put it in the middle of the fucking street, you're like, oh, the table's real messy. Like it's that kind of shock to your system.
Right, okay.
Which is a weird example, but I think the extra violence and the extra normalcy clash to create this weird, like, I don't know, there's a focus to this film where the violence is focused by the normalcy of what's going on around it. It's like, when you have a gunfight, normally you expect like cool swelling music and like, it's a cool location that's set up choreography-wise to be like a cool gunfight. But like it's some dude's living room and someone else like poorly hiding behind a wall and trying to shoot, doing it poorly. Like none of the violence is very good. It's all very awkward and even the fist fights feel awkward. And I think same with the real life, his relationship with his daughter is kind of awkward and weird. His relationship with Healy is kind of awkward and weird. Like it all kind of mirrors each other.
He's just kind of awkward and weird in general.
Well, but I guess that's what people are, right? Like March is this.
He's just the perfect person.
He's just like the atypical, like, or the arch person. Like he's like, he's doing his best, but I think they both are. So like March is this lonely drunk who's like seeking purpose, and then Healy is like so desperate to be needed and wanted that he kind of takes advantage of March's lack of competence to feel important. There's an element of that where it's like, it's kind of subconscious, but I think when you're talking about this idea of, you come out of it being like, I don't know what's real, the extraordinary or the normal stuff, I think the idea is that none of it's real. What's real is the relationships between those people.
Yeah, I guess. Like, there's... Even when they do sort of finish, you know, they save the day, or it's not save the day, when the story is over, when they've done all they've done all the things, it's like they're just kind of back to normal. You know, he makes the comment where it's just like nothing's changed. You know, like some goes up, some goes down. Yeah. We'll all be driving electric cars in 5 years anyway. And yeah, you know, so it's that kind of...
Would you take that as nihilism or just...
I don't know. I'd take that as like setting up a sequel. No, I think it's that like return to normalcy, and especially when that becomes the point where they're sort of named as the nice guys, despite the fact that that's the name of the film.
It's also ironic because they're not.
Well, yeah. Apart from that, but it's like, yeah, inside me, it's just like they're setting up a sequel. But
interesting. I never saw that because
I mean, that's how you set up sequels. You form the team at the end of the film,
right? But I guess for me, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like, we talked about this before. I don't really have that.
But I mean, given that this didn't get a sequel,
I know I also have that cynical lens where that the opposite of cynical, where I'm like, I have that naive thing where I'm like, I just want it to be good. Do you know what I mean?
You don't think that? I mean, when did this film come out?
2017, I think. Yeah.
Oh, that's like prime sequel
territory.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's another question. When you went through the film, like, did you judge any of the characters? Like, were you looking at, like, March being like, you're a shitty father, looking at Healy being like, you're not very stable? Like, did you go through that process of being like, the evaluation of them as people?
I think, like... I don't know, with March and Holly, I got some, like, Kick-Ass vibes from the first Kick-Ass film with, what's her name? What's her... I don't know.
I've never seen Kick-Ass. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Nicolas Cage and the lead female, I don't know her name.
Played by probably one of the Fannings.
Oh, it's not Dakota Fanning. It was played by, like, Grace
Moretz.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Why not?
Yeah. They've got that kind of relationship where it's like, I guess, where she's like kind of been trained to be also like the adult of the family. I guess in this one, yeah, like, what's his name? Merv Moratz. No, it's Moratz and
Chloe. What are you talking about?
In this film.
Yep. Who?
The Goss.
Oh,
anyway,
Ryan Gosling, March.
Yeah, that's the one. So it's like I don't know, the presentation of like March being the child and her being the adult.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it's like, it's one way to do it.
But like in that process, were you looking at them being like, oh, this person's good, this person's bad? Or was it more like, did it get into that like flavor country of that middle ground where you're like kind of, you look at Healy and you look at March and you look at Holly and all these people involved and you're like, they're all just kind of like doing what they think is the best thing they can do? Or was there anyone that you were like, oh, they're a particular bad... I mean, obviously John Boy, he's a fucking hitman, but like, otherwise, was it...
Yeah, like I didn't feel that any character was like particularly portrayed to be bad in any way. I think part of that is just, there's just no consequence for their actions.
But then isn't that, wouldn't you say that could be like Black's point? Not to like put what, like, I think... You're right. Like nothing anyone does feels so consequential that it feels like, oh, they did a bad thing, right?
And like even when March goes, when he's at the first party and he gets wicked drunk, it helps. Like he
solves the crime.
The crime.
Yeah.
Like he's a bit, and then like after that, like he's perfectly capable. Like there's no consequence of him being drunk. He's just kind of he steals a car. And then like when they play it the second time as that kind of like I don't know, that subversion, although it's like super obvious that it's coming. It's
but
I guess
I think the first instance says something about like being a drunk idiot. Like I don't know. I think a lot of films.
I mean, I think it just
because even like
it's an important development of both of their characters and like how they work as like a buddy cop team. It sets up the rest of the film.
But even outside of like the character development, I just think as a thesis statement, like this idea that like even though like he's like, okay, so the ordinary circumstance is you're a drunk idiot on like a Saturday night and you fall down a hill. The extraordinary is like, you know, you're on this like PI trail of some fucking porn star who killed whatever, and it's like whatever, it's like all mystery and stuff. But I think the idea that like both things are perfectly acceptable. Like he falls down the hill drunk and he helps solve a problem. Like I think it's saying that even though it's ordinary, There's nothing actually wrong with like sometimes getting drunk and falling down a hill, but there's
Well,
also
and then,
nothing wrong with.
And then they chuck a body over a fence and it slams into a table. Of
Right,
like
it's
what looks like a prom night or something.
It's like there's a lot of like I don't know. It's bathed in kind of this dramatic irony, but I guess it's cool to me that I don't think the film ever like justifies or acknowledges or kind of forgives the violence or forgives March's drunkenness or says he's good or he's bad. But I think it's less interested in judging and more interested in saying, look, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, life is awkward and weird and messy. You're probably it's probably gonna be fine. And there's something about that like even like the kid on the fucking bike who's like of no help whatsoever, who saw Missy Mountains die or whatever. Like he's a shithead, but at the same time he facilitates the plot in a way that's very anachronistic. And even though he's unhelpful, he actually helps them. Like I don't know, there's something about this film I like Black's work in particular. He seems to get that you can be an unhelpful asshole but still contribute.
Yeah,
like do you know what I mean?
And I think they hit that middle ground perfectly because there's like I don't say that this film has like a happy ending, even though like they succeed in the end of getting the film. None of them die. There's no like the daughter doesn't die, which is like I was just waiting for that to happen and it doesn't, and I was like,
but that doesn't really happen in real life, so why would it happen in this film? And
then like you've got that they didn't they failed in like their original task, which was to get Amelia, but then they kind of they succeeded in getting the film and getting rid of Johnny Boy, but then like still failed in like just overall just the world.
They didn't really win.
Changing.
Like nothing really changed.
Yeah, like it's like a if like a superhero film ended with just like not much happening.
So like Guardians 2, where they just kind of live.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just like there's no success. It's just
you just didn't die.
You just didn't lose.
Which I guess is like that's why I like this film so much. Is it's just this perfect mirror for life, where it's like even though there's all this dramatic like gunfighting or like all these chases and like these crazy shit happening, it's like yeah, but you also just woke up the next day.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't know. There's something about Shane Black's work in particular with that obsession with like the neo-noir thriller stuff that he's really good at having the ending being like yeah, but the main thing is that you got up the next day. Like the sun went up and the sun went down kind of thing. And I mean, the whole film is like obsessed with mirroring. Like when March punches through the door and he slits his wrist, it's like a perfect physical Freudian slip for his like deep existential depression of the death of his wife.
Sorry, what?
So when he punches through the door,
right,
he like slits his wrist.
Sure.
It's like a perfect Freudian slip for like his like depression, right?
Sorry, that's a bit of a stretch.
Literally on his other hand, it's not a stretch. On his other hand, he literally has "You will never be happy" written in fucking
I know,
marker.
and then it gets like rubbed off weirdly.
Yeah,
it's a tattoo, isn't it?
It's not a tattoo. It's because he's using his left hand for his gun hand. Like it's all mirroring. Okay. So like, I've watched this film a lot, but like but like I don't know. It's like whether or not it's like a like you're reaching for that or whatever. It does have some permeance to me because it's like the violence versus the ordinary stuff is always mirroring in this film. So like Amelia, who is like safe in the house of like murderers, porn stars, big time like party goers, and like this private eye who's on the hunt,
millennials, dies
in like the street of like a mid-suburban LA fucking middle of nowhere street, like a safe place where people walk their dogs and shit next to a park. Like the irony of that, I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. Healy doesn't like the violence too, I think, is like kind of a part of this. Where like Healy, played by Russell Crowe, of course, he doesn't sort of. It's not like a fucking film where he punches someone once and they just go down. Like there's these weird, scrappy, awkward fist fights where they seem to like draw everyone into this weird state of like, can we just end this? Like everyone seems to be ready for it to be over before it starts. And there's this kind of, I don't know, the idea that Black talks about when he talks about violence is that violence is a gap in the fabric of order. So he talks about this idea that violence creates chaos, these pockets of chaos in everyday order, and that it's only after Healy beats up March that the whole film starts.
Right.
Just kind of curious, so like violence is the gap that kind of creates the spark that lets this plot happen. And I think that like Ever After, it's a great kind of mirror for the fact that the reason that March is so fucked up and vulnerable is that something as mundane as he doesn't have a great sense of smell, and that his wife died because of that. Like, it's so mundane. Like, his wife dying, it should have been like, if it was another story, it'd be
traumatic.
Like, it'd be like, oh, these gangsters killed her because of my gambling debts. But in this story, it's like, no, you just can't smell so good. Like, it's that kind of same mirror where there's something fucking there's something deeply satisfying about these characters having these like tragic backstories that are so fucking mundane. Like Healy like wants to be like this gunslinger because he punched a dude out in a diner one time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I fucking love that. I love how boring that is.
He's just known as that diner guy.
Right. Like that's the one thing he did. And I mean, Black's obviously like, with Iron Man 3, it's a good example where like he's always had these characters in his stories who were these gunslingers. But who they like wait around. They're like, the West was never gentrified. They're always ready to like fight back.
Right.
Iron Man, he's in this peacetime. That's the whole point of that film is, it's peace times. We solve the world. And then, his house gets nuked and he's ready to go immediately kind of thing. This is kind of the same way Healy has that role where like, everyone else in LA is like chilling out, listening to like fucking Earth, Wind, Fire, relaxing, maximum.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Yeah, that was a
weird
weird one.
With CG too, but
yeah, I was like, oh.
Like even March
Sure.
is like kind of retired himself to drinking above his empty pool.
Right.
And it's Healy who's the one guy who's like ready to gunfight again. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in this that is just very like simple ideas that are executed well, that say very little, but in doing so, like their lack of saying something is the point.
Sure.
And that's kind of what I like about this. So when you're talking about like, when you watch it, you get to the end, you're like, I don't know if the ordinary, the extraordinary, the violence, or the family shit was like the point. Like you never get drawn into either world. I think that's probably the struggle that Healy and March go through, right? And that's I think what probably all of us go through is we have this tendency to want things to be that exciting, heightened version of everything, where it's like, the gunfight at the party and the shooting the guy through the hot tub and like falling down the hill fighting the body, all that shit. Like you want that, but ultimately life is like mostly the other stuff,
right?
Where it's like the boring middle of like, I go to my job and the thing that happened that was exciting is that my car didn't start, or like I couldn't find my keys, or my watch. I can't. Where's my watch?
Fucking PTSD right now.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think the film's like a perfect rendering through this lens of like the 70s LA kind of aesthetic and through this noir kind of thriller. It's just the perfect like representation of what it feels like to go through like life.
Right.
And you make stuff important because you feel like it should be. Like what if like this tape, right? Because even Cutner says it when they're used to sort of they're sitting in the courtroom.
Yeah.
At the end, and she's like, it's not going to change anything. Like nothing's going to change. And you're like, yeah, probably not. But at the time when you go through stuff like that, we always talk about this. Like when you go through things that matter to you, it feels like it's going to change the world. It's going to change your life, but it never fucking does.
Right.
You wake up the next day as the same person. And this film for me, and I'm just like, maybe I'm like reaching too far because that's always what I end up with. But like, I don't know. I think, yeah, that. The idea that an experimental porn film that also combines like investigative journalism could change the world is fucking stupid.
Right. Yeah.
But also at the same time, isn't it stupid that he shot someone through a hot tub?
Yeah.
Like it's that contrast that I think draws this whole thing into like an interesting focus.
Yeah.
I don't know, does that any of that land for you, or is it just
it does?
Yeah, but you still didn't love it?
What?
You don't have to love it. I don't know. Like,
I enjoyed it, but yeah, I just felt that. Yeah, I don't know. It was just missing something. I needed that spice of excitement, which I guess is the point.
Which I guess is the point.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because it's like I think that's why it's not the biggest. Like it's not super.
Sure. Yeah.
Like when like because I think
experimental.
I think if they did that, it would be like everyone would love it. It'd be like
it'd be if they did that, it'd be a bad standard
classic Hollywood trash.
Yeah,
like detective film.
Like it just wouldn't be as good.
Right, but then instead
I think it has more value in the sense that it
something to chew on.
Yeah,
something to think about. Yeah, which I mean that's always what we're talking about. But that's why I love this film. It doesn't do that. It doesn't get to the end and be like, here's a huge gunfight. It has this awkward like chase sequence where Healy kind of with his like dud arm is carrying this film thing and he keeps tripping over and shit.
Right.
And even the awkwardness of like March falls into the pool and then the older guy just splats on the pavement next to him. And it's just so
You're like all right.
But at that point you're so used to it. And
at that stage I was just like, yeah, sure.
And even like in every
one
other
gets the pool, one gets the floor.
The thing that drives me crazy about this film is every time the cops show up, I keep expecting them to get arrested. But the cops are like, oh, we get it.
Yeah.
Every single time. You never see it, but like they're always fine. And I'm like
well, even at the end where like he's holding the thing, there's like a cop in the background who's just like, sir, are you okay? Sir, is there anyone still inside? And he just doesn't respond. And it's just the cop would be like, well, this guy's fucking useless.
Right, like because in a normal thriller, they have to run away from the cops or whatever. But it's like, no, this isn't that. This is like normal life where the cops just kind of
arrive.
Yeah, they just arrive and they do the job.
Yeah.
And that to me is like it encapsulates the whole like idea of this film.
Right.
It's so fascinating to me. Shane Black is such a weird director. Like he did Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, and then like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and like Iron Man 3. Like it's a weird fucking mix.
It's a weird, filmography.
But I think this is like the peak of like what he was trying to do,
right?
For sure. There's something about it that rings so true to the human experience that isn't like. I think if you gave Jim Cameron this film, it would be like this big allegory for like something, or if you gave it to like like other people would make this, and like I think other directors would do this, and it would be like. Some huge message about peace and equality and people and humans and what does it mean to be alive.
They would definitely like it would be an environmental film,
right? Whereas I think for Black, and I think his whole career proves this, is he's so interested in the ordinary, but to access that you have to put on that layer of like subjecting it to the crazy shit, and because we don't get that in real life, we never appreciate what we have in front of us, and I think that's his whole point is, and that's really what Immanuel Kant talks about. That's kind of what I think Black is so curious about is. When you do have something so ordinary as the relationship between a father and his daughter, and who are both pretty fucked up. Like, she sits in a field and reads to no one at night. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
He gets drunk and does, shitty things all the time, but they still love each other, and they have this weird relationship. I think that, to me at least, the only way that you can render that in a way that feels realistic and not heavy-handed is to subject it to those crazy things, and to have it be in the context of, oh, well, she's helping him, hide a person of interest in this crazy murder spree, porn film thing. And it's that contrast that draws it all into focus. And it's one of my favorite films for that reason. And it's like, it's on my top 10 list. Like, I think it's just really simple. And without that complexity, it's kind of like 500 Days without the time travel stuff. It's simple.
Right.
It works. I don't know. I fucking love this film. And I wanted to talk about it because it's like, that's what we're doing this month, is stuff that we love. Sure. And I'm glad that at least you enjoyed some of it, and that maybe like you get why I like it, even if it doesn't do it for you. Yeah. Which is fine. Do you have any recommendations for this week?
Shit.
Because we had a whole conversation before we started recording. You're like, I'm going to write them down.
Nah, I don't know. I started watching Tuca and Birdie. Yeah. Which is the, made by the same people who did BoJack.
Guys. We'll talk about it in the post show, but what do you think top level?
There's bits of like BoJack in there, but I think that it's very much like repackaged in a way.
It's not for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely, it's not for us. Yeah, I don't think that's bad. I think it's good.
It just is.
It just is not for us. Yeah. Even like just like looking at, even when I was like reading the like the description of it, I was just like, yeah, this is not going to be for us.
No,
like, it's just not for us.
Right. Which is, I'm fine with that.
Fine, it's good. It's about fucking time.
Interesting to talk about that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I watched that as well.
Taping that. I watched the Secret Garden movie again.
Okay.
Yeah, that was okay. Yeah. It wasn't great.
I've started watching
pretty average.
Afterlife by Ricky Gervais.
Right.
Very funny, but very confronting.
Right.
It's like 6 episodes. Highly recommend it. I've got like 2 left. It's like, honestly, like, when you watch something and it's just fucking brilliant. You're like, I have to watch that again. Yeah. It's really good, but it will make you cry. So keep that in mind if you're going to watch it in front of someone that you're trying to be tough and cool with. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, I've been bumping Logic's new single. He's released a single with Eminem. It's fucking weird. Oh, God. It's so weird. Yeah. Check that out. Otherwise, where can people find us?
Facebook.
At DCMworks Social.
YouTube.
YouTube.com/DCMworks.
Twitter.
At DCM_works.
Patreon.
Patreon.com/DCMworks. Our subscriptions start at $3 a month. You can get access to over 60 plus episodes of back catalog, as well as exclusive Patreon-only video essays, early access to all kinds of information, plus you get a discount on my book, all kinds of good stuff. So head to patreon.com/DCMworks. Help support us, helps us do more of this shit. We have a ton of ideas, so you can go do that if you want to help us out. I'm going to put up a video sometime in the next few weeks about our kind of future plans. Some of you have been involved with that if you're on the Patreon.
Oh, Christ.
So
keep an
eye out for that. We'll get your thoughts on that.
Future scares me.
But you can also just suggest topics to cover. So last week we covered Brick, which was a Patreon suggestion. So you do that as well. Otherwise, if you wanted to follow us individually, I'm at TCM I Hate Pie.
I'm at Literal Citrus.
See you guys next week.